Hey Kipsters, it's Mrs. Walsh. I'm glad you're tuning into this video to listen to Chapter 12 of Fantastic Mr. Fox. I'm super excited because we're about halfway finished with our story, so we're getting closer to the end. I hope you enjoy the reading today. Before we jump into Chapter 12, I do want to review what happened in previous chapters of our story. Right now, we're still in the PS, the problem solution phase of our story. So what's going on right now? At this point of the story, Mr. Fox has come up with a plan to save his family from starving or being killed by the farmers. Mr. Fox and his small foxes are digging tunnels to the farmers' farms to get food and then bring it back to family. The farmers have not been mentioned in these past couple of chapters, but we know that they're still waiting outside the foxhole and that they have all of their farm workers around the perimeter or around the outside of the hill, just in case the Fox family tries to escape. As we do before every new chapter, we're going to review two new vocab words that are going to show up in our chapter today. The first word is the word chaos. If there is chaos, it means that there is disorder and confusion. The second word is tease. To tease means to make fun of or try to get someone upset or angry. These are our two words for today, chaos and tease. Now that we're a little over halfway through with our first Roald Dahl book, in these chapters we're reading today, we're going to meet a few new characters. So far in our story, Mr. Fox, his family, and the three farmers are the main characters we've met. In the next part of the story, we're going to get a chance to meet some more animals who are impacted by the farmer's plan to catch Mr. Fox. Some of the other animals that we're going to meet are on the screen: badger, mole, rabbit, and weasel. Badger's name is bolded because he's the character we're going to meet today. He's another digger who lives in the hill. Our Chapter 12 focus today connects back to the problem and solution in the story. Our focus today is, how is Mr. Fox's fight with the farmers impacting others and making the problem worse? Let's read and meet our new character, Badger. Chapter 12, Badger. Mr. Fox and the three remaining small foxes dug fast and straight. They were all too excited now to feel tired or hungry. They knew they were going to have a whacking great feast before long, and the fact that it was none other than Bogus's chickens they were going to eat made them chortle with laughter every time they thought of it. It was lovely to realize that while the fat farmer was sitting up there on the hill waiting for them to starve, he was also giving them their dinner without knowing it. "Keep digging," said Mr. Fox. "It's not much further." All of a sudden, a deep voice above their heads said, "Who goes there?" The foxes jumped. They looked up quickly and they saw, peeking through a small hole in the roof of the tunnel, a long, black, pointed, furry face. "Badger!" cried Mr. Fox. "Foxy!" cried Badger. "My goodness me, I'm glad I found someone at last. I've been digging around in circles for 3 days and nights, and I haven't the foggiest idea where I am." Badger made the hole in the ceiling bigger and dropped down beside the foxes. A small badger, his son, dropped down after him. "Haven't you heard what's happening up on the hill?" Badger said excitedly. "It's chaos. Half the wood has disappeared, and there are men with guns all over the countryside. None of us can get out, even at night. We're all starving to death." "Who is we?" asked Mr. Fox. "All us diggers. That's me and Mole and Rabbit and all our wives and children. Even Weasel, who can usually sneak out of the tiniest spots, is right now hiding down my hole with Mrs. Weasel and 6 kids. What on earth are we going to do, Foxy? I think we're finished." Mr. Fox looked at his 3 children and he smiled. The children smiled back at him, sharing his secret. "My dear old Badger," he said, "this mess you're in is all my fault." "I know it's your fault," said Badger furiously, "and the farmers are not going to give up till they've got you. Unfortunately, that means us as well. It means everyone on the hill." Badger sat down and put a paw around his small son. "We're done for," he said softly. "My poor wife up there is so weak, she can't dig another yard." Before we move on with the rest of this chapter, I have a question I want you to think about. The question is, how does Badger feel about Mr. Fox and their current situation? And how can we tell that's how he feels? Go ahead and pause the video and think about your answer to this question. How is Badger feeling, and how can we tell that's how he feels? I'm guessing that some of the feeling words you came up with when you're thinking about how Badger's feeling at this part in the story may have been words like mad, furious, sad, confused, disappointed. Badger was able to express his feelings to Mr. Fox, and we, the readers, can come up with feeling words based on what we read in the text and also based on what we've seen in the illustrations. Let's keep reading and see if his feelings stay the same or if they change. "Nor can mine," said Mr. Fox, "and yet at this very minute she is preparing for me and my children the most delicious feast of plump, juicy chickens." "Stop!" cried Badger. "Don't tease me. I can't stand it." "It's true," cried the small foxes. "Dad's not teasing. We've got chickens galore." "And because everything is entirely my fault," said Mr. Fox, "I invite you to share the feast. I invite everyone to share it. You and Mole and Rabbit and Weasel and all your wives and children. There'll be plenty to go round, I can assure you." "You mean it?" cried Badger. "You really mean it?" Mr. Fox pushed his face close to Badger's and whispered darkly, "Do you know where we've just been?" "Where?" "Right inside Boggis's chicken house number 1. "No." "Yes, but that is nothing to where we are going now. You have come just at the right moment, my dear Badger. You can help us dig, and in the meanwhile your small son can run back to Mrs. Badger and all the others and spread the good news." Mr. Fox turned to the small badger and said, "Tell them they are invited to a fox's feast. Then bring them all down here and follow this tunnel back until you find my home." "Yes, Mr. Fox," said the small badger. "Yes, sir. Right away, sir. Oh, thank you, sir." And he scrambled quickly back through the hole in the roof of the tunnel and disappeared. Now that we've come to the end of chapter 12, we're going to reflect again on Badger's feelings in this chapter. How have Badger's feelings changed in the last few pages? The second question I want you to consider is, how is Mr. Fox's plan changing? I want you to pick one of those two questions and then type your answer in the comment box below this video. You can either answer the question, how have Badger's feelings changed? Or how is Mr. Fox's plan changing? This is a really important chapter because in this chapter, Mr. Fox's plan changes and we also meet and hear about new characters. Tune in tomorrow. Come check out the video for chapter 13 and let's hear what Miss Rondo reads and how the story continues. See you guys soon.